Commander Jake Sullivan pressed his face against the cold glass of the observation deck. Space around Earth looked different today. The stars were moving in ways that made no sense. Bright flashes appeared and disappeared like someone was turning lights on and off in the darkness. "Sir, we're getting readings unlike anything we've seen before," called out Lieutenant Amy Clark from her station. Her voice shook as she spoke. "Something big is coming." Jake turned away from the window and walked to the main control panel. The orbital defense station had been his home for 3 years. It was humanity's first line of defense against anything that might threaten Earth. Until today, that job had been boring. No aliens had ever visited their solar system. Most people on Earth thought they were alone in the universe. They were wrong. The space in front of Earth began to tear open like someone was ripping a hole in reality itself. Bright blue energy crackled along the edges of the tear. Jake had seen movies about this kind of thing, but seeing it happen in real life made his stomach turn. "Get me Admiral Hayes on Luna Base," Jake ordered. "And wake up everyone on this station. We're about to have visitors." The first ship came through the tear slowly. It was beautiful and terrible at the same time. The vessel looked like it was made of crystal and metal twisted together. It was longer than any building Jake had ever seen. Purple and blue lights pulsed along its surface like a heartbeat. Then came another ship. And another. And another. Jake watched in horror as hundreds of alien vessels emerged from the tear in space. They moved in perfect formation, like dancers who had practiced their steps 1,000,000 times. Each ship was different, but they all shared the same crystalline beauty and the same deadly purpose. "Admiral Hayes is on the line, sir," Amy reported. Jake grabbed the communication device. "Lisa, are you seeing this?" "I see it, Jake," came the reply. Admiral Lisa Hayes commanded all of Earth's space defenses from the moon. She was the smartest military officer Jake had ever known, but even she sounded scared. "I'm counting over 300 ships. Maybe more." On Earth's surface, people were starting to notice. Jake could see news helicopters flying around the major cities, their cameras pointed up at the sky. Emergency broadcasts were already starting on television and radio. President Carl Martinez was probably in his underground bunker by now, trying to figure out what to tell the world. Jake didn't envy him that job. "They're sending us a message," Amy announced. "It's coming in on all frequencies." Jake nodded. "Put it through the main speakers." The voice that filled the station was not human. It spoke perfect English, but there was something cold and mechanical about it. The words came out too evenly, like a computer trying to sound human but not quite getting it right. "Greetings, inhabitants of the third planet. We are the Zephyrian Empire. We have searched the galaxy for your kind. Your scattered colonies have been most educational. Now, we have found your home world." Jake felt his blood turn cold. Scattered colonies? Humans had colonies on other worlds, but they were all within their own solar system. How could aliens have found human colonies that didn't exist? Unless they did exist and Earth's government had been lying about it. The alien voice continued. "We offer you one chance to avoid unnecessary destruction. You will surrender your world and your people to the Empire. You will serve us as your colonies have served us. You have 24 hours to decide." The message ended. The alien fleet hung in space above Earth like a storm cloud waiting to break. Jake opened a channel to all Earth's defense stations. "This is Commander Sullivan. All stations report readiness status." The responses came in quickly. Earth had 12 orbital defense platforms, each armed with nuclear missiles and energy weapons. They also had a small fleet of destroyers and cruisers. Against a normal enemy, it might have been enough. Against 300 alien ships, it looked like a joke. "Jake, we need to buy time," Admiral Hayes said over the radio. "I'm ordering all civilian ships to evacuate to the outer planets. Military vessels will form a defensive line between the aliens and Earth." Captain Ryan Baker's voice came through the communications system. "Admiral, the destroyer Phoenix is ready for action. My crew is prepared to do whatever it takes." Jake knew Ryan well. He was a good captain with a loyal crew, but his ship was tiny compared to the alien vessels. Jake counted at least 50 alien ships that were bigger than Earth's largest battleship. Deep beneath the surface of Earth, Dr. Emma Stone was having the worst day of her career. As the world's leading expert on ancient civilizations, she had been called in to help analyze the alien message. Specifically, she was supposed to figure out what the aliens meant when they talked about human colonies. "There's something here," she told her assistant, Professor Kate Adams. They were in the deep archives beneath Geneva, surrounded by artifacts and documents that were older than recorded history. These symbols keep appearing in different ancient sites around the world. They're not from any known human civilization. Kate looked at the photographs spread across the table. They look almost like blueprints or maybe instructions for something. Emma nodded. "That's what I thought too. But instructions for what?" Above them, the world was going crazy. People were fleeing cities thinking the aliens would attack. Population centers first. Others were gathering in groups, some to pray, others to fight. The military was trying to maintain order, but it was hard when everyone knew they were facing an enemy they couldn't defeat. The alien fleet remained perfectly still above Earth. They made no aggressive moves, but their presence was enough to terrorize the planet. Jake could see the ships clearly now through his telescope. They were even more beautiful up close, but that beauty was frightening. They looked like art pieces designed by a mind that didn't understand human concepts of art. "Sir, we're getting seismic readings from all over the planet," Amy reported. "Small earthquakes, but they're happening in places that never have earthquakes." Jake frowned. "What kind of earthquakes?" "That's the strange part. They're not random. They're happening at specific locations, almost like something is activating underground." On the surface, people felt the tremors but had bigger things to worry about. The news was full of experts trying to explain what was happening. Some said the aliens were using weapons that caused earthquakes. Others thought it was just a coincidence. Dr. Stone felt the tremors too, but she noticed something others didn't. Each tremor seemed to make the ancient symbols on her artifacts glow slightly. It was so faint that she almost missed it, but under her magnifying glass she could see the symbols pulsing with a soft blue light. "Kate, look at this," she whispered. Kate leaned over to see. "Are those symbols glowing?" Before Emma could answer, alarms began sounding throughout the facility. Emergency lights flashed red, and a voice over the intercom announced that all personnel should prepare for possible evacuation. The 24 hours the aliens had given humanity were passing quickly. Jake watched the countdown on his screen, as Earth's leaders tried desperately to come up with a plan. The United Nations was in emergency session. Military commanders were moving their forces into position. Scientists were trying to analyze the alien technology. But everyone knew the truth. Earth was not ready for this. Humanity had always dreamed of meeting aliens, but in their dreams, the aliens had been friendly. These aliens were not friendly. They were conquerors who had already defeated human colonies that Earth didn't even know existed. As the deadline approached, Jake prepared his station for battle. He knew they would probably all die, but they would die fighting. That was what humans did. They fought even when they couldn't win. He had no idea that deep beneath his feet, something ancient was beginning to wake up. Something that had been waiting for millions of years for exactly this moment. The Empire had found Earth, expecting to conquer another weak world. Instead, they had just made the biggest mistake in their long history of conquest. The 24 hours ended at exactly noon, Earth time. Commander Jake Sullivan watched the numbers on his screen count down to 0. Around him, his crew waited in silence. Everyone knew what was coming. The first alien attack came from the largest ship in the center of the fleet. A beam of bright purple energy shot down from space toward Earth's surface. It struck the main military base in Colorado, and the entire mountain disappeared in a flash of light. Where the base had been, there was now only a crater filled with melted rock. "All stations engage the enemy," Admiral Hayes ordered from Luna Base. Her voice was calm, but Jake could hear the fear underneath. Jake's orbital defense station fired, its missiles at the nearest alien ship. The nuclear warheads exploded against the crystalline hull, but the ship barely seemed to notice. Its shields absorbed the energy like water soaking into sand. Captain Ryan Baker led Earth's small fleet of destroyers in a desperate attack. His ship, the Phoenix, fired everything it had at one of the smaller alien vessels. The energy beams and missiles struck the alien ship's hull, but again the damage was minimal. "This is Phoenix to all ships," Ryan's voice crackled over the radio. "Our weapons are not effective. Repeat, our weapons are not working." More purple beams lanced down. From the alien fleet, Earth's other orbital stations began exploding one by one. Jake watched in horror as the station nearest to his was cut in half by an alien weapon. The two pieces spun away into space, trailing atmosphere and debris. "Sir, we need to evacuate," Lieutenant Amy Clark said. Her hands shook as she worked at her control panel. "We can't fight these things." Jake shook his head. "We stay and fight. Someone has to." But even as he said it, he knew it was hopeless. Earth's defenses were being destroyed faster than they could respond. The alien weapons were too powerful, their shields too strong. Humanity had brought knives to a gunfight. On the surface of Earth, the alien bombardment continued. Military, bases, airports, and government buildings were being destroyed with surgical precision. The aliens were not trying to kill everyone on Earth. They were trying to break humanity's ability to fight back. In the underground facility beneath Geneva, Dr. Emma Stone felt the ground shake as another alien weapon struck somewhere above. The ancient artifacts around her were glowing brighter now, pulsing in rhythm with the tremors. "The earthquakes are getting stronger," Professor Kate Adams said. She was monitoring seismic equipment that showed activity all over the planet. "And they're not random. They're following some kind of pattern." Emma studied the glowing symbols on the artifacts. They were definitely responding to something. Each time an alien weapon struck Earth, the symbols pulsed brighter. It was as if the ancient technology was waking up. "Kate, I think these artifacts are connected to something bigger," Emma said. "Something underground." Above them, the city of Geneva was in chaos. People ran through the streets trying to find shelter from the alien attack. But strangely, none of the alien weapons had targeted the city itself. They were only hitting military and government targets. Lieutenant Colonel Amy Clark had been promoted quickly when her superiors were killed in the first wave of attacks. She was now commanding the Backup Defense Center in Colorado, built deep, inside a mountain. The main command center had been destroyed, but the backup facility was still operational. "Ma'am, we're getting impossible readings from seismic stations worldwide," her aide reported. "The entire planet is showing coordinated seismic activity." Amy looked at the displays showing earthquake activity around the globe. The pattern was unlike anything she had ever seen. It looked almost like something was moving beneath the Earth's crust, something enormous. "Are the aliens causing this?" she asked. "We don't think so, ma'am. The seismic activity started before the bombardment began. It's like something underground is responding to the attack." In space, the alien fleet continued its methodical destruction of Earth's defenses. Overlord Kethvar, the commander of the Zephyrian fleet, watched the battle from his flagship. His species had conquered 17 worlds using the same tactics. Destroy the military, demonstrate overwhelming power, and the population would surrender. Earth was following the same pattern as all the others. The humans had put up a brave fight, but their technology was primitive. Their weapons could barely scratch Zephyrian shields. In a few more hours they would surrender and another world would join the Empire. Kethvar had no way of knowing that Earth was different from every other world his people had conquered. He had no way of knowing that the planet itself was about to fight back. The first sign that something was wrong came when the ocean floor began to crack. Huge fissures opened in the deepest parts of the Pacific, Atlantic, and Indian Oceans. First the aliens thought it was just collateral damage from their bombardment. Planets sometimes had geological reactions to orbital bombardment. But then something began to emerge from the cracks. Commander Jake Sullivan was preparing to abandon his station when Amy called out in amazement. "Sir, you need to see this. Something is rising from the ocean." Jake looked at the display showing Earth's surface. In the middle of the Pacific Ocean, something massive was pushing up from the sea floor. It was bigger than any building, bigger than any mountain, and it was clearly artificial. "What is that thing?" Jake whispered. As they watched, more structures began rising from oceans around the world. They were sleek and metallic, with lines and curves that seemed almost organic. But they were definitely machines, and they were enormous. Dr. Stone felt the vibrations change in her underground facility. The tremors were no longer random. They had a rhythm like a heartbeat. The ancient artifacts were now glowing so brightly that she could read by their light. "Emma, look at this," Kate said, pointing to her computer screen. "I've been translating some of these symbols. I think this word means guardian and this one means awakening." Emma studied the symbols more carefully. As she did, she began to understand. These weren't just artifacts from an ancient civilization. They were part of a system, a network, of technology that spanned the entire planet. "Kate, I think Earth isn't just our home," Emma said slowly. "I think it's a weapon." The structures rising from the oceans began to glow with the same blue light as the artifacts. Panels opened along their sides, revealing what looked like massive gun barrels. But these weren't like any weapons humans had ever built. They were smooth and organic looking, as if they had grown rather than been manufactured. Overlord Kethvar watched the displays on his flagship with growing concern. The structures rising from Earth's oceans were larger than his largest warships, and they were clearly weapons platforms. "Scan those structures," he ordered his science officer. "I want to know what we're dealing with." The scan results made no sense. The structures were made of materials that shouldn't exist. They were generating energy signatures that were off the scale, and they were all connected by a network of tunnels and conduits that ran through the planet's core. "Sir, these readings are impossible," the science officer reported. The energy levels we're detecting would require the entire planet to be one massive power source. Kethvar felt a chill run through his body. In all his years of conquest, he had never encountered anything like this. The primitive humans had been hiding something. But what? He got his answer when the first shot was fired. The weapon that emerged from the Pacific Ocean fired a beam of energy that was brighter than the sun. It struck the nearest Zephyrian cruiser and the ship simply vanished. Not destroyed, not damaged. Gone, as if it had never existed. Then the other structures began firing. Beams of impossible energy lanced up from Earth's surface, striking the alien fleet with devastating effect. Zephyrian ships that had seemed invincible moments before were being destroyed with single shots. Their shields, which had easily absorbed humanity's nuclear weapons, were useless against these new weapons. "All ships, evasive maneuvers," Kethvar ordered. But it was too late. The weapons platforms were targeting his ships faster than they could move. The energy beams tracked their movements, striking with perfect accuracy. In the space of 5 minutes, the Zephyrian fleet lost over 50 ships. The humans they had been preparing to conquer were now fighting back with weapons that made Zephyrian technology look like stone knives. Dr. Stone felt the entire underground facility shake as more systems came online. The ancient network was fully awakening now, and she could feel its power humming through the ground beneath her feet. "Emma, the symbols are changing," Kate said. "They're showing new patterns, like they're trying to communicate." Emma studied the glowing symbols. As she watched, they began to rearrange themselves into something that looked almost like a message. She couldn't read it yet, but she could sense its meaning. The planet was waking up, and it was very, very angry. Above them, the battle continued. But now it was Earth that was winning. The Zephyrian Empire had come to conquer a primitive world. Instead, they had awakened something that had been sleeping for millions of years, something that had been waiting for exactly this moment. General Tony Reed had seen a lot of impossible things in his military career, but nothing had prepared him for this. From his command center deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, he watched as Earth itself joined the battle against the alien invaders. "Sir, we're getting reports from all over the world," his aide reported. "Massive structures are emerging from underground. They're appearing near every major city, but they're not attacking our people. They're targeting the aliens." Tony looked at the tactical display. Red dots showed the positions of the remaining alien ships. Blue dots showed the mysterious weapons platforms that were rising from Earth's surface. The blue dots were winning. "Get me a direct line to Dr. Stone in Geneva," Tony ordered. "I need to know what these things are." Meanwhile, Captain Julie Nash was having the strangest experience of her life. Her fighter jet had been damaged in the first wave of alien attacks, and she had been forced to make an emergency landing on what she thought was a small island in the Pacific Ocean. But the island wasn't an island. It was one of the massive structures that had risen from the ocean floor. As she stepped out of her damaged aircraft, panels opened in the structure's surface. Strange machines emerged, machines that looked like a cross between robots and living creatures. Julie expected to be attacked, but instead the machines began repairing her fighter. They worked with incredible speed and precision, replacing damaged parts with components that seemed to grow rather than be assembled. Within minutes, her aircraft looked better than new. "What are you?" she whispered to the machines. One of them turned toward her and spoke in perfect English. "We are the maintenance systems of the Guardian Protocol. Your vessel has been upgraded for compatibility with Architect technology. You may now resume your mission." Julie climbed back into her fighter and immediately noticed the differences. Her instruments showed readings that made no sense. Her engines were producing twice their normal power. Her weapon systems had been completely replaced with technology she didn't recognize. As she took off, more fighters appeared around her. They were sleek and beautiful, unlike anything humans had ever built. Their hulls seemed to shimmer and change color as they moved through the air. "Unknown aircraft. This is Captain Nash of the Earth Defense Force. Please identify yourselves." "We are the Guardian Fleet," came the reply. "We have been waiting for activation. Follow us, Captain Nash. We have work to do." Dr. Emma Stone was finally beginning to understand what was happening. The ancient artifacts in her facility had been glowing steadily brighter, and now they were projecting images into the air above them. The images showed the history of Earth, but not the history humans knew. "Kate, look at this," Emma said, pointing to one of the holographic displays. "This shows Earth millions of years ago, but look at these structures. They're the same ones that are emerging now." Professor Kate Adams studied the images carefully. "It's like Earth was built to be a fortress. These structures were already here when life began on the planet." The holographic display changed, showing new images. They saw a race of beings that looked nothing like humans. They were tall and graceful with features that seemed to shift and flow like water. The images showed them building the structures, programming them, preparing them for something. "They're called the Architects," Emma said, somehow understanding the meaning of the symbols that appeared with the images. "They built Earth to be a guardian world, a planet that could defend itself when threatened." "But what were they defending against?" Kate asked. The hologram answered her question. It showed space filled with darkness, a darkness that consumed everything it touched. Stars went out as the darkness passed over them. Entire galaxies were swallowed up and disappeared. "Something that eats everything," Emma whispered. "The Architects built Earth to fight against something that consumes entire galaxies." Above them, the battle in space was turning into a complete disaster for the Zephyrian Empire. Overlord Kethvar watched in horror as his mighty fleet was systematically destroyed by weapons he couldn't understand. The energy beams that rose from Earth's surface didn't just destroy his ships, they seemed to unmake them, breaking them down into their basic components and scattering them across space. His most powerful battleships were being eliminated with single shots. "Sir, we've lost over half the fleet," his science officer reported. "These weapons are using principles we've never encountered. They're not just more powerful than ours, they're operating on completely different physical laws." Kethvar had conquered 17 worlds, but he had never faced anything like this. The humans had seemed so primitive, so easy to defeat. How could they have hidden weapons like this? The answer came when his sensors detected something even more impossible. The planet itself was moving. "That's not possible," Kethvar said, staring at the readings. "Planets don't move on their own." But Earth was moving, slowly, carefully, but definitely moving. It was adjusting its position in space, bringing more of its weapons to bear on the alien fleet. The entire world was acting like a single massive warship. Captain Ryan Baker had watched his destroyer Phoenix get torn apart by alien weapons, but somehow he had survived. His escape pod had been picked up by one of the mysterious structures that had risen from Earth's oceans. Now he found himself inside a facility that was clearly not built by humans. The corridors were wide and tall, designed for beings much larger than people. The walls seemed to be alive, pulsing with soft light that changed color as he walked past. Strange symbols appeared and disappeared on the surfaces around him. "Welcome, human," a voice said from everywhere and nowhere. "You have been selected for enhancement." "Enhancement?" Ryan asked. "What kind of enhancement?" "The Guardian Protocol requires human operators who can interface with architect technology. Your genetic patterns are compatible. Do you consent to the procedure?" Ryan thought about his destroyed ship, his dead crew, and the alien fleet that was trying to conquer his world. "What will it do to me?" "You will retain your humanity, but you will gain the ability to operate our systems. You will become a bridge between your species and ours. You will help defend not just Earth, but all worlds threatened by the darkness." Ryan didn't understand what the darkness was, but he understood that Earth needed defending. "I consent." The enhancement process was unlike anything Ryan had ever experienced. He felt his mind expand, connecting to systems and networks that spanned the entire planet. He could sense the weapons platforms rising from the oceans, the underground, facilities humming with power, the ancient machines that were awakening after millions of years of sleep. And he could sense something else, other worlds, scattered across the galaxy that were beginning to wake up as well. Earth wasn't the only guardian world. The architects had built dozens of them, maybe hundreds, all connected by technology that spanned space and time. Lieutenant Colonel Amy Clark was coordinating Earth's conventional forces when the reports started coming in. "Ma'am, we're getting calls from military bases around the world. They're saying that ancient structures are emerging from underground, and they're offering to help our forces." Amy looked at the tactical display. The alien fleet was retreating. Now what was left of it? The mysterious weapons platforms had done in an hour what humanity's entire military couldn't do in a year. "What kind of help are they offering?" Amy asked. "Weapons, ma'am. Technology. They're saying they can upgrade our equipment to fight the aliens more effectively." Amy made a decision that would change the course of human history. "Tell all units to cooperate with these guardians. If they can help us defend Earth, we need to work with them." Around the world, human soldiers were getting their first look at architect technology. Their weapons were being upgraded with energy systems that could punch through alien shields. Their vehicles were being enhanced with propulsion systems that defied physics. Their communication systems were being connected to a network that spanned the entire planet. Dr. Stone felt the change in the underground facility. The ancient machines were no longer just awakening. They were teaching. Information flowed directly into her mind, showing her the true history of Earth and humanity's place in the galaxy. "Kate, I understand now," she said. "Humans weren't supposed to develop naturally. The architects guided our evolution, shaped our development, prepared us to inherit their technology." "Why us?" Kate asked. "Because we're the right combination of intelligence and aggression. We're smart enough to operate their technology, but aggressive enough to fight when we need to. The architects were peaceful explorers. They couldn't fight the darkness effectively, but we can." The holographic displays changed again, showing the current battle in space. The alien fleet was in full retreat now, running from weapons they couldn't understand or defeat. But the displays also showed something else. The retreating aliens were sending messages calling for reinforcements. This is just the beginning, Emma realized. The Zephyrians aren't the real enemy. They're scouts for something much worse. The darkness the architects fought is still out there, and it's coming for Earth. Above them, the battle was ending. The surviving alien ships were jumping back into hyperspace, fleeing from the planet they had thought would be an easy conquest. 3 weeks had passed since the alien fleet fled from Earth. The world was still trying to understand what had happened. Cities that had been preparing for destruction were now protected by massive energy shields that rose from underground. Military bases had been rebuilt overnight by machines that seemed to think for themselves. Dr. Emma Stone stood in the largest chamber she had ever seen. It was located miles beneath the surface of Earth. accessible only through tunnels that the architect machines had opened for her. The chamber was so vast that she couldn't see the ceiling or the far walls, even with the bright lights that illuminated the space. Emma, these archives contain the history of the entire galaxy, Professor Kate Adams said. She was standing next to a wall covered with glowing symbols that stretched up into the darkness above them. According to what I've translated so far, the architects lived for millions of years before humans even existed. Emma touched one of the glowing panels, and immediately, images filled her mind. She saw worlds covered with beautiful cities where beings of light lived in peace. She saw them exploring space, discovering new forms of life, spreading knowledge and harmony throughout the galaxy. They were explorers, not warriors, Emma said. They wanted to understand everything, to help life grow and develop on every world they found. Major Phil Warren led his team of soldiers through corridors that seemed to go on forever. The underground complex beneath North America was enormous, filled with machines and technology that his engineers couldn't begin to understand. But the machines were friendly, helping his people learn how to operate systems that could reshape entire continents. "Major, you need to see this," called Sergeant Bill Murphy. He was standing next to what looked like a window, but when Phil looked through it, he could see space. Not the view from Earth's surface, but the view from somewhere deep in the galaxy. "That's impossible," Phil said. "We're underground." "It's not a window, sir," Bill replied. "It's some kind of communication device. We can see what's happening on other worlds in real time." Through the viewing device, Phil could see other planets. Some were green and blue like Earth. Others were red and barren. But all of them had the same massive structures rising from their surfaces, the same energy shields protecting their cities. "How many worlds like this are there?" Phil asked. The answer came from the machines around them, speaking in perfect English. The Architect Network includes 247 Guardian worlds. All are awakening in response to the threat. All are preparing for the return of the darkness. Professor Helen Garcia had been working with the alien archives for days without sleep. The information they contained was beyond anything humans had ever imagined. History that went back millions of years. Technology that could reshape reality itself, and knowledge about threats that could destroy entire galaxies. "Emma, I've found something terrible," Helen said when Emma and Kate joined her in the archive chamber. The architects didn't die naturally. They were killed by something they called the Devourers. Helen activated a holographic display that showed the final days of the architect's civilization. The images were beautiful and horrifying at the same time. They showed planets being consumed by a darkness that seemed alive, stars going out as something fed on their energy, entire solar systems disappearing into nothingness. "The Devourers don't just destroy," Helen explained. "They consume everything. Matter, energy, even time itself. They've been moving through the galaxy for millions of years, eating everything in their path." Emma watched the images with growing horror. "Is that what the Zephyrian Empire is working for?" "Not working for," Helen said. "Running from. The Zephyrians are refugees. Their home galaxy was consumed centuries ago. They've been fleeing the Devourers ever since, conquering worlds to build up their strength for a war they can't win." The holographic display changed to show recent events. The Zephyrian fleet that had attacked Earth was sending desperate messages across space. They weren't calling for reinforcements to attack Earth again. They were warning their empire about what they had found. "The Zephyrians know about the Guardian worlds," Kate said. "They know that Earth isn't just another planet to conquer. They know it's a weapon designed to fight the Devourers." Dr. Stone felt a chill run through her body. And if they know about Earth, then the Devourers will know too. Captain Ryan Baker opened his eyes in a body that was no longer entirely human. The enhancement process had changed him in ways he was still discovering. He could see energy patterns that were invisible to normal human eyes. He could hear the conversations between machines that were scattered across the planet. He could feel the pulse of power that ran through Earth's core. "How do you feel?" asked the voice that had guided him through the enhancement process. "Different," Ryan said, "but still me." That was the intention. The architects learned that enhancement must preserve the essential nature of the species being enhanced. Too much change and you lose what made you valuable in the first place. Ryan stood up and looked around the chamber where he had been transformed. It was filled with technology that he now understood instinctively. Control panels that could direct the planet's movement through space, weapon systems that could crack moons in half, communication devices that could reach across the galaxy instantly. "What do you need me to do?" Ryan asked. "Learn, teach, prepare your people for what is coming. The Devourers have found this galaxy and they are coming. Earth and the other Guardian worlds must be ready to fight them." Ryan felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. "How long do we have?" Based on the Zephyrian fleet's communication patterns, approximately 18 months before the first Devourer scouts reached this sector of the galaxy. President Carl Martinez stood in the Oval Office, but it wasn't the same office he had known before the invasion. The walls now displayed real-time information from around the world and across the galaxy. The furniture had been replaced with technology that could connect him instantly to any Guardian world in the Architect network. "Mr. President, we need to tell the American people what we've learned," his advisor said. "The whole world needs to know what's coming." Carl nodded. "Schedule a global address for tomorrow evening. Every nation, every leader, every person on Earth needs to understand what we're facing." That evening, Carl Martinez addressed not just the United States, but the entire world. His words were broadcast on every television, radio, and internet connection on the planet. Even people in the most remote locations could hear him, thanks to the communication networks that the Architect machines had activated. "My fellow humans," Carl began. 3 weeks ago, we were attacked by an alien empire. We thought we were facing invasion and conquest. We were wrong. We were facing a test and we passed." He paused, looking directly into the camera. "Earth is not just our home. It is a fortress, built by an ancient civilization to defend against a threat that could destroy our entire galaxy. We are not just humans anymore. We are the inheritors of technology and responsibility that spans millions of years." Around the world, people listened in amazement as their president explained about the architects, the Guardian worlds, and the coming threat of the Devourers. Some people panicked. Others celebrated. Most simply tried to understand what it meant for their daily lives. "We have 18 months to prepare," Carl continued. 18 months to learn how to operate technology that can move planets and destroy stars. 18 months to become worthy of the trust that the architects placed in us. In military bases around the world, soldiers were learning to use weapons that fired energy instead of bullets. In laboratories, scientists were studying machines that could create matter from pure energy. In schools, children were being taught about their planet's true history and their role as its guardians. Dr. Stone worked day and night with the Architect archives, learning everything she could about the coming threat. The more she learned, the more terrified she became. The Devourers weren't just another enemy that could be fought with conventional weapons. They were a force of nature, like a cosmic hurricane that consumed everything in its path. "Emma, I've found something important," Kate said. "The architects didn't just build Guardian worlds, they built a network. All 247 worlds are connected, and when they work together, they can do things that individual planets can't do alone." Emma studied the new information. "What kind of things?" "They can create barriers that span entire solar systems. They can focus the energy of multiple stars into a single weapon. They can even manipulate time and space to create shortcuts across the galaxy." For the first time since the invasion began, Emma felt hope. "So we're not fighting alone?" "No," Kate said. "We're part of something much bigger. But Emma, there's something else. The network requires human operators. Not just enhanced humans like Captain Baker, but regular humans who can make the kind of quick decisions that machines can't make." Emma understood immediately. The architects were too peaceful to operate their own weapons effectively. They built the network, but they needed a warrior species to run it. "And that's us," Kate said. "Humanity isn't just inheriting architect technology. We're completing it. We're the missing piece that makes the whole system work. Across the galaxy, other Guardian worlds were awakening to the same realization. 6 months had passed since Earth learned its true purpose. The planet looked very different now. Massive crystal towers rose from every continent, reaching into space like fingers touching the stars. Energy shields surrounded major cities, glowing softly in colors that changed with the time of day. And in the skies above, ships that had once been impossible were now as common as clouds. Admiral Lisa Hayes stood on the bridge of the first human starship built with architect technology. The vessel was called Harmony, and it was larger than any ship humans had ever imagined building. But it wasn't just a ship. It was a piece of Earth itself, grown from the planet's living metal and powered by energy drawn directly from the sun. "Admiral, we're receiving signals from the Kepler system," reported Lieutenant Commander Sam Morgan. "Guardian World 47 is fully operational and requesting connection to the network." Lisa nodded. This was the moment they had been preparing for. Earth was no longer just defending itself. It was coordinating the defense of the entire galaxy. "Connect us to the network," Lisa ordered. "It's time to take command." Captain Ryan Baker felt the connection happen like electricity running through his enhanced nervous system. Suddenly, he wasn't just aware of Earth's systems. He could sense every Guardian world in the galaxy, all 247 of them, connected by technology that worked faster than light itself. Through the network, he could see worlds he had never imagined. Desert planets where crystal cities rose from red sand. Ocean worlds where floating cities rode on seas of liquid methane. Ice worlds where the Guardian structures looked like mountains made of diamond. And on every world, beings that had once been ordinary were learning to become something more. Just as humans were learning on Earth. Dr. Emma Stone walked through the command center that had been built beneath the Pacific Ocean. It was the size of a city, filled with machines that controlled not just Earth's defenses, but the defenses of the entire galaxy. The responsibility was overwhelming, but she had learned to carry it. "Emma, we're getting reports from the edge of the galaxy," Professor Kate Adams called out. "The Devourer scouts have been detected. They're still 3 months away, but they're definitely coming." Emma studied the tactical display that showed the positions of all the Guardian worlds. They formed a defensive network that surrounded the galaxy's inhabited systems. When the Devourers arrived, they would find not just one fortress world, but hundreds of them all working together. "How many scout ships?" Emma asked. 12, Kate replied. "But according to the architect records, each scout ship is the size of a moon, and behind them will be the main fleet." Emma felt a chill, but also determination. "Then we'd better make sure we're ready." On the surface of Earth, life had changed in ways that still amazed people. Children went to schools that floated in the air, held up by technology that made gravity optional. Farmers grew crops in fields that could adjust their own weather. Workers built new cities using machines that could reshape matter at the atomic level. But everyone knew that this peaceful time wouldn't last. The galaxy was preparing for war, and Earth was at the center of it all. Major Phil Warren led his team through one of the massive shipyards that had grown from the ocean floor near Hawaii. The shipyard was building vessels that would carry human crews to other Guardian worlds, spreading Earth's knowledge and learning from the experiences of other species. "Major, the first colony ship is ready for launch," Sergeant Bill Murphy reported. "Captain Nash has volunteered to command it." Phil looked at the ship that would carry 1,000 humans to Guardian World 156, a planet orbiting a star 50 light-years away. The voyage would take only 3 days using architect technology, but it represented something much more important than speed. It represented humanity taking its place as leaders of the Galactic Defense Network. Captain Julie Nash had come a long way from the fighter pilot who had crashed on a mysterious island 6 months ago. Her body had been enhanced like Ryan Baker's, giving her the ability to interface directly with architect technology. But more importantly, her mind had been expanded to understand the true scope of the galaxy and humanity's role in protecting it. "Julie, are you ready for this?" asked Dr. Stone as they stood together on the ship's bridge. Julie looked out at the stars that would soon be her destination. "As ready as anyone can be for commanding a planet-sized weapon, because that's what Guardian World 156 was." Like Earth, it was an entire planet converted into a fortress. Unlike Earth, it had been waiting for its guardians for millions of years. The beings who had once lived there were long gone, leaving behind only their machines and their hopes that someone would eventually come to fulfill their purpose. President Carl Martinez addressed the world one final time before the colony ships departed. 6 months ago, we learned that we were not alone in the universe. Today, we're proving that we're worthy of the responsibility that has been placed on us. The ships launching today carry more than just people. They carry humanities, promised to defend all life in the galaxy. The launch was unlike anything that had ever been seen on Earth. Instead of rockets fighting against gravity, the colony ships simply rose from the ocean like bubbles of air rising through water. They moved smoothly and silently, accelerating to speeds that would have torn apart any conventional spacecraft. Within hours, they had left the solar system. Within days, they would reach worlds that humans had never seen, carrying Earth's knowledge and humanity's determination to species that had been waiting for millions of years. Dr. Stone watched the ships disappear into space, then turned her attention back to the tactical displays. The Devourer scouts were getting closer, and the network needed to be ready for them. "Emma, we're receiving a transmission from the Zephyrian Empire," Kate reported. "They want to talk." Emma was surprised. The Zephyrians hadn't been heard from since their fleet fled from Earth 6 months ago. "Put them through." The face that appeared on the display was not human, but the expression of fear was universal. Overlord Kethavar looked like a being who had seen too much death and destruction. "Guardians of Earth," Kethavar said. "I am Overlord Kethavar of the Zephyrian Empire. I must warn you, the Devourers are not just sending scouts. They are sending a harvesting fleet. They intend to consume this entire galaxy before moving on to the next." Emma felt her blood turn cold. "How long do we have?" "The scouts will arrive in your time measurements within 2 months. The main fleet will follow within a year. You must understand, Guardians. My people have been running from the Devourers for centuries. We have seen them consume entire galaxies. They are not just powerful. They are inevitable." Emma looked at Kate, then back at the Zephyrian Overlord. "Then it's a good thing we're not running. We're fighting." Kethavar's expression changed to something that might have been hope. "If you are truly willing to fight, then the Zephyrian Empire offers its allegiance. Our fleets, our technology, our lives. We have nothing left to lose and everything to gain." Emma made the decision that would unite former enemies against a common threat. "Welcome to the Galactic Defense Network, Overlord Kethavar. We're going to need all the help we can get." Over the following weeks, the network expanded beyond just the Guardian worlds. The Zephyrian Empire provided intelligence about Devourer tactics and technology. Other alien species, hearing about the awakening Guardian network, offered their own assistance. For the first time in millions of years, the galaxy was uniting against a common enemy. Captain Ryan Baker stood in the command center of Earth, connected to every Guardian world, every allied fleet, every defensive system in the galaxy. Through his enhanced senses, he could feel the vast network of life and technology that was preparing for the coming battle. "Ryan, the scouts have entered the galaxy," Dr. Stone reported. "They're heading straight for the core systems." Ryan felt the network respond. Guardian worlds that had been dormant for millions of years powered up their weapons. Fleets that had never worked together began coordinating their movements. Energy barriers that could span entire solar systems began forming at strategic points. "Network status?" Ryan asked. "All 247 Guardian worlds are online and ready," Emma replied. "Allied fleets are in position. Defensive barriers are active. We're as ready as we can be." Through the network, Ryan could see the Devourer scouts approaching. They were exactly as the records had described them, massive ships that seemed to absorb light itself, leaving trails of darkness as they moved through space. But this time they wouldn't find helpless worlds waiting to be consumed. "Emma, signal all Guardian worlds," Ryan said. "The Devourers are about to learn something they've never experienced before. This galaxy fights back." The first Devourer scout ship entered the outer defensive perimeter and immediately found itself under attack from 3 Guardian worlds simultaneously. Energy beams that could crack planets struck the dark vessel from multiple angles. For the first time in millions of years, a devourer ship was destroyed before it could begin consuming anything. But Ryan knew this was only the beginning. The scouts were just the advance force. Behind them came the main fleet carrying devourers that had consumed entire galaxies. The real battle was yet to come. As he prepared for the greatest war in galactic history, Ryan felt something he hadn't expected.